Hey guys, Buckeye Bar guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, that way anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show. Welcome back, everybody. Buckeye Bar guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
I'm John.
Today's date is Thursday, October 7th, 2021. And we're getting ready to kick off against Maryland here in 2 days. Noon kickoff. So we'll be talking about the Terrapins. Going off of our last episode, John, I think we both have been pretty impressed how they were able to, to go from Akron to Rutgers and completely dominate them. Different challenge this week. If you would ask me 2 weeks ago, I would have said that I was very interested how our defense was going to do in this game coming up. I was a little less concerned defensively against Rutgers than I was just offensive consistency against Rutgers, and that got answered. But after we saw last Friday with Iowa, I mean, it's just a different feel now for Maryland, just because Iowa runs a predominantly zone defense, and baby Tua just was throwing the ball up for grabs all night long. And I just think there's a lot of potential that the defense could really feast in this game.
Yeah, before I get too much into that, I originally thought, I don't know why, I thought this game was on Fox Sports 1 instead of Fox. And I was like angry today that I'm like, this is 4 games in a row that the Buckeyes are getting some second rate shaft, that we're going to be on some crew that doesn't deserve us. And here, I mean, I'm, sorry to, who was it? Brando and I don't even tell him. Yeah. So apologies to those guys, but luckily looks like it's going to be Gus and Joel with us again. So happy about that. Your thoughts on the defense? I would agree with you that, Iowa showed some success, but Iowa also got home and got to baby Tua, Talia Tagovailoa, and Ohio State's defensive line hasn't done much of that outside of the tackles this year.
Well, I mean, I think we could still, I think Iowa showed last week that, when he doesn't have a lot of windows because teams are in a zone defense. I mean, he's a guy that likes to make plays with his feet. Zone defenses take a lot of that away from you. And when you can make plays with your feet, then you can kind of make plays with your arm then you get people start looking for you. Now, with zone defenses where he could hurt you a little bit, where I'm a little nervous about is that, if he goes to run and somebody pulls out of their zone to come up and meet him and somebody fills in behind him, and then, he's able to hit somebody behind before he gets the press line of scrimmage. I mean, that's worrisome, but you're going to see that against almost anybody you play, that you just got to be disciplined. And that is a play that beats zones. I mean, regardless of who we play, that is always going to be an option in somebody's arsenal, that especially if you got a running quarterback, you're more than likely you're going to pull somebody out of a zone because they're going to come up and try to get you when they think you're going to run, and it fills in from behind. So you just have to mitigate that with having guys behind him, the safety's in correct position. So that way, if something like that does happen, they don't get a big play out of it.
Yeah. And I would say that, I think I'm more confident going with a zone against him than I would be with man to man, especially if we're not getting our defensive ends aren't getting home, because what he can do outside of just being able to run, he can keep the play alive with his feet within the pocket. And, that could give, like Raheem Jarrett, he could get open on that. Now, of course, Maryland's top receiver, Dante Demas, is that? I might be saying his name wrong. Hold on, I'll look that one up. But, he got injured last week against Iowa. He I don't know what he broke, or I didn't look further into the injury. It was pretty gruesome watching it live, though. Yeah, Dante Demus or Demus. So yeah, that was gross. So I mean, that's kind of one of the risk of having your best player out on special teams. That's why you and I, or at least me, maybe more so than you, but we're both concerned when Garrett Wilson's back there fielding punts, because things like that can happen. I understand the benefit of getting ball in your best player's hands, your playmaker's hands, but also there's that downside that they're taking more hits than they should be.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think what we've seen the last couple of weeks, and when now I really like essentially go against a guy like Tungalo, that I would like to continue getting the pressure with the defensive tackles. That forces him outside, and then as long as your defensive ends can stay contained to him, then that's going to drastically slow him down.
Oh yeah,
and you should be able then to get to him. I think that between Haskell Garrett and, I think we both agree it's time for Tyleek to probably be the starter. The guy is being as dominant as possible. He's arguably the best defensive tackle on the team right now. I would still probably slightly give it to Haskell, but Tyleek's had a better of a season so far, even though, Haskell's quietly having a really good season. He's not, I think last year he just jumped out on everybody when it finally came to him that, he was just, this was going to be his defensive front.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like he's still doing a lot of that. It just seems like, I don't know, maybe since we're kind of expecting it this year, that it's not the wow factor as it was last year, but it still seems like he's getting to the quarterback a lot. He's making plays in the middle. Outside of Oregon, which is still this weird anomaly right on the schedule, they haven't. Well, Minnesota did run on us, but since Oregon, none of these teams have ran on us at all, and there's been nothing open in the middle. It's like these guys are really starting to clog these holes.
Yeah,
and that zone defense behind it is, the linebackers are playing much more reacting to a running back now, and they're coming down and hitting them. So, I'm just thinking that as long as we can get the pressure up the middle as we're getting, I'm fine that the defensive ends aren't getting home right now. Now, I think as the year goes on, the defensive ends have to start stepping up, especially against better offenses. But, I don't think Maryland is going to put the type of pressure on our defensive tackles that maybe some other teams will that have better guards and centers, that we could still get to him through them, and then the ends can clean up whatever.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I don't think that they have the line that can necessarily push us around that we shouldn't. I don't know if we should stress going to play against them. Of course, you take every opponent seriously, but at the same time, we are more talented than them. We should be able to win those battles at the line of scrimmage, at least defensive. Well, on both sides, of course, not just defensive against offensive. And then it's going to be the most talented offense we've played since Oregon, probably more so than Oregon. Oregon's offense really isn't anything that spectacular, but
I think this offense is definitely much more explosive. So I would think that they are going to stress us in points. We're going to really see how good that zone is, because they're going to be able to stress us some points, and nobody has stressed us on so far this year in the passing game. And I think that if we don't get home to Tua, or not Tua, but
his little brother,
little one, wannabe Tua. If we do get home to him, that I think that we can really. I'm trying to say it. We could really make him make mistakes, but if we don't get to him, and I think he's good enough that he could find the openings in our defense, and they have some speed in the receiving corps, so that could be scary. they're not our receivers, but they usually have really good athletes there. So I mean, he could get some spots open, and they could do some damage then running free.
I mean, the one thing you got to be kind of confident about is, well, don't let it be like too quick. You got to stay on their receivers, whatever, or, get your pressure. I think if you can get him to a point where he's throwing a ball, but he doesn't kind of realize what's around it, it's going to be fine because you got enough playmakers on your defense that even if he sees a guy open and he chucks one up, hopefully there's someone in that zone that's actually waiting on that ball. So that's the type of thing, though. If you're not getting any pressure to him and the receivers are breaking open right away, that can kind of be a rough game. But playing that zone, I mean, it's really like, let's see if they can beat us running the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that I think we'll be fine against the run. I'm not how good have they been? I mean, the only game I've really watched them this year was I watched a decent amount of that Iowa game last week. It just seemed they weren't running at all against Iowa, and like it seemed like every pass he threw was an interception. So
yeah, he had a really rough game. I mean, I think he only have one going into the game. Like, wasn't he the most efficient passer in the Big Ten?
Yeah.
That was god awful. I felt terrible for the kid. Not really, not too terrible. I mean, I say I felt bad, but I don't like Maryland that much. I don't think Mike Locksley's that good of a coach. And he showed it. Once that game got hard, it was just Mike Locksley being Mike Locksley, Maryland being Maryland, and it all fell apart on them. So let's see what they have. Okay, so their leading rusher has 331 yards on 47 attempts. So 7 yards per carry. Not bad.
Good.
Yeah. Pretty damn good.
So those will probably be our first real running back challenge in a few weeks. I mean, we haven't had a running back since the first 2 games of the year that really could probably challenge us and test us. So that's interesting. So, I mean, all around, I mean, I don't think this, after I saw Iowa play against them, and I know Iowa's defense is really, really good, especially their back seven. But I think our defense is really good now that we're getting better. I think we have the potential to be really good, to be just as good as them, especially in the back seven. And when we're playing a defense that fits our team better as we are now. But it'll be interesting because this is definitely probably the first offense that will really be able to challenge us in a lot of different ways. So, I mean, that's a good test. And, now we got to see it because we'll see how well progressed they have become.
Yeah. And I don't want to get overly confident or too cocky on it. But if you got the defense to a point where you got it figured out where you can let your guys play fast and you can let them make plays. I mean, we got the most talent out of any defense in the Big Ten. We're going to have the guys that can make the most plays. Now I know Iowa gets a ton of turnover. So I'm not trying to say we're a better defense than Iowa in any stretch. We got plenty of guys that can do the job.
We're starting to get plenty of turnovers now too. I mean, we got 4 or 5 interceptions in the last 3 games. I mean,
well, we had 3 last week. We probably have more like 6, 2, and at least 2. So 7 in 3 games.
Yep, and 3 of them have been house calls, and a 4th was almost a house call. So I mean,
maybe 8. How many do we have against Tulsa? Because I know Burks gets waved off. Did we only have Martinez and was there another one after Martinez? Did Hickman or Ransom get one?
I don't remember. Maybe later in the game.
So we got anywhere between 6 to 8 within a 3-game stretch. So not bad. Pretty good, actually.
Yeah, we're turnover wise, we're coming up fast on teams that and like I said, we've had some house calls now, and I think they're showing how deep they are just in pure talent. That one of these kids step in front of a ball, they're pretty much gone, and like it's good luck catching them because they already have an angle on everybody to the end zone. Right,
and the rest of the team and the rest of the defense is bigger, faster, stronger, and they can get to your offense and get the blocks too. So
yeah. So defensively, I'm definitely interested. I think this will still be a challenge. I think we're much more up for it. If this was even after the Iowa blowout, and this is how confidence can help. If this was the game after Oregon I would feel really concerned. Sorry, I would feel really concerned about this. But I'm just feeling better. I know one of those games are against Akron, but I mean, I was just very impressed with what we saw last week against Rutgers. Now, Maryland's going to test us differently defensively than Rutgers did, but still, I mean, that's still a much better team than what Akron was. And,
Sure.
We basically shut them down in every imaginable way.
Yeah. And I know, like, on the other side of the ball, Rutgers, my goodness, we beat them. Maryland's defense I think they're actually better than what I thought they were. Like, they're a top, I want to say like 60 defense, maybe like 52nd or something in total yards per game, something like that. So they're not bad. They're not horrible. Ohio State's still growing or climbing as a defense as well. I don't know. I saw Iowa's offense kind of start beating them up.
Yeah.
I'm confident Ohio State can do the same, whether it be beating them up and hitting, short passes or passes like they did against Rutgers, or just running all over them. I think Ohio State's offense will be fine.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Maryland might have a little bit better defense than we thought. I mean, but this is the best offense that they've played all year. I mean, Iowa's good, but Iowa's not our offense. And, Ohio State's, when you look at the numbers, their offense has been dominating everybody, with the exception of, they didn't score as much as they should have against Oregon, but they still on the scoreboard yards wise, they dominated the hell out of them. So I don't see Ohio State having any problems moving the ball. I mean, especially if Stroud looks like what Stroud did last week. Now, if he can build off of that game against from Rutgers to Maryland, and he still looks as, competent and as competitive as he was, and, hitting his receivers and not, and just making better play calls when he had to take off with the ball. I mean, he was just all around better. I mean, every facet that people were a little nervous about him, he kind of answered all those calls last week. And against a team that does have a better defense than Rutgers, and you had to figure that they were ready for him. I mean, Shiano's a good defensive coach. I mean, they saw Stroud the first several games, and I mean, he was better than anything that they could coach up against him. So I just think it's going to be a lot of the same this week for him, and he's just going to continue to grow. And this is kind of it is weird. Like every week that he grows, if he has another game this week like he did last week, it really does kind of start feeling like maybe we're like kind of like 2014 all over again, because I mean, we'll see where we're at the end of the year. I mean, we got to get into the playoffs and stuff, but Rutgers, I think, wasn't it Cincinnati the next week, but Rutgers and Maryland were pretty quick that year, if I remember correctly, and they blew them both out. And they weren't that far after Virginia Tech. And it's kind of feeling that it's kind of got that same feel to it. And
yeah, no, I agree with that. This year, this is going to be your first Big Ten game at home. So we'll see how that goes. And, we do think it's going to be stiffer competition. Hopefully the fans are still behind CJ. And I don't think it was as terrible as what some people were trying to make out.
No.
He wasn't booed out of Ohio Stadium.
I think the problem with everybody is we all live in a Twitter universe now, which, at least half the fans that are in that stadium are not on Twitter. I mean, there's nobody over a certain age that goes to those games that are probably on Twitter, or if they are, they're not as active as other people on Twitter. So that doesn't necessarily Twitter always represents, for as good as it is to get out and talk with the fans, it always represents the loudest part of your fan bases for whoever team you are. And that's good or bad. That, I mean, there's the good moments with it, there's the bad moments with it, but it's always just that certain demographic that are really into the games and they tweet about them. I mean, that's why we're on Twitter. And, but I don't think that, probably if you really break it down, I would probably say when you take the entire fan base, that there was still, even after that, Tulsa game, I mean, I would say was still probably plus 80% that still were behind him as the starter as a whole.
I'm trying to think what that is of 76,000 people. Because isn't that all that was that game?
Yeah, but I mean,
know.
is the whole
I don't
the
got
whole fam.
I don't got the
Yeah.
math right now. That's like take 14,000 or something off that total. So 62,000 still. They were still down.
I mean, I didn't just mean the stadium. Yeah, I mean, is the whole, fan base as a whole. That I think that, still the majority of them were still well behind Stroud because, they're going to support. There's no reason to not support anything that Ryan Day is doing because just how successful he's been. So I think the majority of the fan base is still didn't, even with the lost Oregon, still had no reason to, not go with Ryan's guy at that point.
So just out of curiosity, I looked it up. And so Virginia Tech was a loss. They gave up 35 points to Virginia Tech in that loss. Beat the crap out of Kent the next week.
Okay.
Then they beat up Cincinnati.
I knew Cincinnati was in there.
Then Maryland, then Rutgers. So yes, about actually the same exact point. Just you flip the two teams. Yeah.
Yeah. So Cincinnati was our Tulsa, and Kent was Akron, and And if I remember correctly from that Cincinnati game, even though they handled them, they had like 3 huge touchdown passes and kind of dominated our secondary. Because I think they had like 20 something points in that game. They actually challenged our secondary in the game. It's just, they couldn't do anything against our offense the whole game.
Yeah, I think I was working that night. The game was close for a little bit, though. I remember that because I was checking my phone. It wasn't a runaway game. That was for sure. Even though we won 50-28, it wasn't runaway.
So it does kind of have that feel of literally it's kind of setting up in the games. And I don't know. I just think that Maryland's defensively is going to be in for a whole interesting game in this one because Trevion has shown that he can't be stopped right now. And it's like that is like it is getting crazier and crazier by the week. I don't care how many plays he was in for last week. He literally this kid could take a handoff to the house almost on any given play. And there's going to be games this year where he's going to take, I really believe this, that he's going to take 3 or 4 long ones to the house just because he'll grind at different parts of the game, but there's just going to be parts in the game where 50 yards out and he's just going to go right up a hole and then just be gone. And you're going to see that 3 or 4 times in a game. And
let me ask you, if he has 20 touches in the game, are you more surprised if he has over 220 yards, or are you more surprised if he has under 100 yards?
I would be more surprised if he was under 100 yards.
I'm the same way. I would think
I think he could get to 200 yards on 20 carries, 200 plus yards. I don't think that's that is not a stretch of any imagination. You're right. He already did it. I'm being serious. I could see him take 450 plus yard touchdown to the house. He's that just dominant when he gets loose, and he's not a speed back by any imagination. He's just faster than anybody on the field when he gets through a hole. The dude's big. He's got power behind him, and he's already broken tackles, and he's not an easy load to take down by any stretch of any imagination. He's not the Teague or Mayan size, but he packs a punch too.
Yeah. I would like to see though, and I think Ryan Day even talked about this, he has to keep improving, getting the hard 3 to 5 yards that sometimes, he gets hit at the line and not that he goes down. It's not like he gives up on the play or anything like that. It's just, we've come to accustom Ohio State running back gets the ball. The Ohio State running back's getting 4 yards at minimum. And even though this guy definitely can do that, we've seen he can do that. It's still just continuing to do that, being able to take those hard punches at the line of scrimmage and keep going forward. And I don't have any doubt that he can do it.
I agree with that. I would like to see him keep pumping his legs a little bit better than he is. But, it's still for every one that he's being stopped at the line of scrimmage or just 1 or 2 yards. The next one he's taken for 6 yards, and the one after that he's taken for 10 yards.
Right, he more than makes up for it. That's for sure. Yeah, I know, and that's Dad. He had asked me, who number 21 is, Evan Pryor, and I'm like, oh, that's the speed back we got this year, and it almost seemed silly, to say that. And I know, Evan will be much more than that, and he'll probably end up falling into like a Curtis Samuel
granted,
type role.
Yeah, he's already been playing in just garbage time, but I mean, I like how he's running up the middle, like in between tackles. I mean, he's running with some strength.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely has to, get bigger, but like against Akron, that one that he cut to the outside, I mean, no one even got close to catching up to him there. So that I just thought that was kind of like silly, or felt weird to say that this is the speed back when the other running back's faster than everybody on the field, whatever he's in.
Yeah.
I mean, the youth movement for Ohio State, I mean, this is such a special freshman class.
I know. It's just, I think that's what a lot of people just have to remember too, is that, I mean, I hope we get back into it towards the end of the year, but it's like, I mean, we are so set up for the next 2 seasons after this. So just when you think about all the youth that is playing right now, and not only are they playing, man, these guys are contributing. And like that's even scarier than the fact that they're just playing. It's not even that they're getting reps and getting, work to, be better for next year. Like, these guys are getting reps and actually doing something with their reps, and not garbage time reps. These are guys that are getting real reps against, first teams, and they're winning.
Right. Exactly. And it even goes beyond contributing. They're leading. I mean, your leader in sacks is a true freshman defensive tackle. Like, who would have thought that? Your best cornerback is a true freshman that played wide receiver in high school. He didn't even play corner. Like, this, it's just scary how good this team is, or what this team is. And they're going to keep getting better throughout the year too.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we definitely feel pretty confident in what we're going to see from Henderson. So I think the most interesting, I mean, we know what we're getting out of the receivers. The most interesting thing is just going to was last week what we're going to see from Stroud going forward, or was that just a fluke from he was a little off the first few weeks, and he maybe wasn't living up to expectations. I think it's what we're going to see going forward. I think that his shoulder was bothering him a little bit, plus he also needed a little hard love. Kind of was benched, and
he got a fire lit under his ass, is what happened. Yeah. And he sat down to get healthy, but and because of that, he saw that there are other quarterbacks that can take this job if he doesn't get healthy.
Yeah, and so I think it was definitely it was a kick in the butt. I mean, he hasn't done he's not Justin or even Dwayne. I mean, or JT. I mean, he hasn't done anything up to the point that said that he couldn't have had his starting job taken from him. If the shoulder injury kept going on, obviously we want him to be healthy, but if McCord caught a couple games under his belt and he started looking the part, then that's hard to lose that job out of his. If the team was starting to win under McCord, I don't know if Stroud gets that job back, but I think a lot of different things are. There's a lot of injuries too that are also mental, and that shoulder hurts a little bit more when you're down on yourself. And then when you be like, man, I got to go prove myself. Well, now your shoulder feels a little bit better, and I don't think his shoulder, I don't think there was any structural damage to it, because I think obviously he'd be sitting out more weeks. But there could be, I mean, it's always a possibility. But I think that he saw what happened. He's like, there's nothing guaranteed right now. My shoulder feels better, and I'm going to go prove myself now. And after 1 week, he's proved himself. So now he's got to take that on to the next week. Yep. And if he keeps on proving himself every week, then I mean, we're going to have a damn good quarterback that is going to be, I mean, he's never going to necessarily replace Justin Fields, but the fan base is going to start feeling a lot more comfortable with, like, well, you know what? We're good at quarterback going forward, and we have our guy now. So and he's possibly the guy that's going to lead the team over the next couple of years if he keeps this up.
Yeah. And honestly, if the line blocks for him like they've been blocking for him, as long as he doesn't, zero in on a receiver from the snap and just stare them down, he's going to be fine. I mean, he's had so much time this year to make plays.
Yeah. And I definitely liked how we showed some stuff last week that with him that we haven't shown all week. And I think part of it too going on, and we said this, during the Rutgers, our after Rutgers show that, the coaching staff called a better game for him. Ryan Day called a better game for him this week than he called the first 3 weeks for him. I mean, I think he's getting a feel now of what Stroud can do and can't do. So, and that's what good coaches do. The good coaches don't keep trying to, fit, the round hole into the square, or the square hole peg into the round hole, or whatever, however you say that saying. Eventually the good coaches, once they figure out what their guy is good at and not good at, well, you develop an offense around him. And I think that's what we're seeing right now too, in part, that not only is Stroud getting more confidence, and not only is he getting more confidence, and not only is he, mentally getting tougher, that, he's taking the reins of this team, but, Ryan Day knows who he is now. And it's like, all right, these plays are out and these plays are in, and, and I'm going to build an offense around him that works for him.
Yeah. Day's offense has definitely been evolving every week since Oregon. So, and I mean, not necessarily only on Stroud. We saw Tulsa, they pretty much beat us with Stroud, and they still went at him beat us on the ground because we're going to stop your pass. And they should have just ran the ball for like 600 yards in that game. But that is what it is. I think that was, the wake up call we needed on offense. And I think it's going to keep continuing. I mean, I was just so impressed, like that first touchdown with Henderson, to use that tight end as a lead blocker there. Just little things that they've done in every game, that they've evolved with their run game, switch things up to find, what could work on the defenses. Of course, like you said, the passing game looked a little different this time around, that they kind of found Stroud's range, his zone, and they just kind of they tooled that playbook to work for, what would make him best, not make him run Ryan Day's offense. Ryan Day built an offense around him for that game, at least.
Yeah. Well, and I think what we saw is that I think we're going to see from Stroud is, I think he's got an arm on him. He's not the strongest arm, obviously, on the team, but I mean, he is definitely overthrown some of our receivers. So, I mean, he's needs to, know where how to fine tune that to get those guys on the field. And they're going to go down the field again. But I think that what Ryan Day found is that probably a little bit more of the plays that made Dwayne Haskins good is what's going to fit for him. And he kind of dusted some of those off. And then maybe they're not going to challenge them 20, 30 yards down the field. Maybe they're going to challenge them at 10, 15 yards and then see what the receivers can do after that. And you know what? If the receivers go out and pick up another, 10 yards, and it's basically he's still making 20-yard, 30-yard pass completions because, it's no different than what Justin Fields did. It's just they're doing it in a different way. And, that's fine too.
I mean, we've seen the receivers make so many plays, after the catch, all the yards that they've gotten. So, yeah, exactly. And you know what? It could kind of be like in 2014 when teams started coming up then, when Ohio State was more running or short passes. They'd come up and then JT would go over the top and hit Devin Smith. And you got the tools. You got Olave and you got Garrett Wilson that can do that to anybody.
Yeah. And I think that, unlike 2018 where they got in a little trouble that year in the red zone because they didn't have the running game adapted to the style of how they wanted to coach that, how he needed to coach Dwayne. And they, once those 10-yard routes don't work as easily when you're, running when you get down into the red zone. So, but unlike that year, I think now he has the know-how how to call a running game in this style of offense. Partially because, the head coach, Urban wanted a different style running game. So, I think Ryan Day was a little handcuffed there to, the inside the red zone handoff game. Those obstacles aren't there anymore. So I think, Ryan Day has a better idea how to do a running game under this style of offense. And, he's got 3 backs, he's got monster backs in between Teague and Mayan. And, even Crowley is now showed some strength. I mean, he looked pretty good last week.
Crowley looked good.
And so it'll be interesting to see, especially, we still don't know what's going on with Mayan. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how much playing time Crowley now gets into the mix. So, I mean, they're fine at running game, and that they will be able to run the ball within the red zone this year, where maybe they weren't able to do it in 2018 to kind of ease that style of passing game, but they will be able to do it this year.
Well, I still don't know inside the 3-yard line who's stopping Master Teague.
No, and that's always the thing. I don't know who would, because I think any of them could run it in from the 3, especially how good our offensive line is. Sure. But yeah, you have that trump card. He's the ace, like the ace in the hole. I mean, you throw that at him in there. He's getting 6 every time, and if he's at the 3. He's probably taking it from there, but if not, he's getting 2 yards, and then you're just going to go run it again with him. Yeah. And he's going to get it in.
Yeah, I'm not sure, who wants to meet him in a hole to try to stop him from getting, 2 yards.
Yeah. All right. So we will check and go ahead and look at some of the top 25 coming up, because I think we're pretty much in agreement. I think that what's going to be the fun thing about this game is that I think we're expecting them to win, but I think the fun thing about this game is that it's just to see them they progress to another level this game than they did last week. And I just want to keep on seeing progress from them. That's what's getting exciting to me. All right. Top 25. So we'll start with noon. The other game going on at noon with us is Oklahoma, Texas, noon on ABC. What are you thinking here? OU is a 3-point favorite, so they're undefeated. Texas has 1 loss. What do you think?
I think Texas has played better than Oklahoma the last few weeks, but I still think Oklahoma has the better setup. They have the better players, better and more explosive offense. They do have a better defense. I'm going to say Oklahoma, and they'll win by more than 3.
Yeah.
Hook 'em.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
That's like
Texas.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You're doing that. Texas. That's the NWO, buddy.
Whatever.
Too sweet.
NWO is always cooler than Texas. But it's still going to be the Horns. Horns are going to beat them. I think I have not been impressed with Oklahoma at all this year, and I think they're going to lose this week. Not just because we need them to lose, because we do, but like they're going to lose.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going with that. So Texas will win outright on that one and cover, obviously, break the cover. The games of the 2 overrated teams from last week. Arkansas, Ole Miss.
Can I just ask you, after that ass beating, how is Arkansas still ranked 13th?
SEC, man.
They didn't score a point.
Why are we even discussing this? I mean, where's LSU? They've lost like 2 games now. They got to still. Yeah, they're not. They're not in it. That's surprising to me, but like. These teams, they keep them. That's how. And then at the end of the year, that's how we sit up on top of. And it's like the selection committee even plays with it too. It's like they all do, and it's like, well, Georgia beat a number 8 team, and and now they're still in the top 25, even though they'll have 4 losses at the time. And like, they do this crap every year. And it's not saying that Georgia and Alabama aren't good football teams. It's just that they oversaturate, they overflate the rest of the ACC or the SEC so much that I've never argued that I don't feel that they're not the best conference, because they are the best conference. But
sure,
I think that I think that the butt kissing that they get from their teams, like you lose 40-0, 38-0, what some of these teams lose to, and you drop 4 freaking spots, like, or whatever, 5 spots, like, give me a break, like.
All right, so
Mississippi's a 5.5 point favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say they cover.
I'm gonna agree with you on that one.
Georgia threw for 72 yards last week. I mean, God.
Well, that's the other thing too. I know their defense is phenomenal, but it's like this team is going to get undefeated all the way to going into Alabama, and then they're going to get blown out by Alabama. But they are really good. Look at all these top 25 teams, top 10 teams they beat too. You know, everybody plays. Alabama always plays everybody really good. They're heads over better than everybody. So does that mean Georgia's not in the top 4? And that's the crap we're going to get. And that's why it's just I feel like Ohio State has a lot less spot. There's a lot less wiggle room than I think what even some Buckeye fans are thinking, that, you know, you really gotta just keep on progressing and blowing teams out.
You gotta just beat the crap out of everybody, and that's all that you can handle.
I mean, I'm not saying Georgia couldn't get stunned. Possibly Alabama gets stunned. I just feel like that, you know, they're both going to go in that game undefeated. So, and this week they're playing the next, they're playing Auburn. Auburn's number 18 in the country. Georgia will probably handle them. They're a 15.5 point favorite. You know, Auburn will drop 3 spots, and Georgia will have another good win on their belt, even though they'll beat them probably by 40. And
I'll say Auburn, though. Auburn will have the players on the team that I'll say that they can keep that game within 15.5.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Bo Nix has some more magic up his sleeve. I don't know. I mean,
who they beat? I don't know. They beat LSU, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I can't.
I don't know.
I said Bo Nix was. My normal Saturday. I had a few cocktails, and someone said something about Bo Nix, and I said he was like the love child of JT Barrett and Johnny Manziel, but no good. Yeah, that's insulting to both JT Barrett and Johnny Manziel, so I apologize to them.
Yeah, it's pretty harsh, man.
I know. So, what do you? I mean, so I mean, you think Ole Miss beats Arkansas?
Yeah, I do think they'll cover on that game, and I actually think Georgia's going to cover this game too. I think they're going to beat Auburn, and they're going to beat them easily. Like
they might beat them up.
So, and it's just, you know, we're still going to be having debates who's the best between Alabama and Georgia. We'll get to Penn State and Iowa in a minute. So there's not really any big top 25 games I really want to look at.
You think Notre Dame rebounds against Virginia Tech?
Yeah, I mean, even though that's an even game, I mean, so they're given.
Wow,
that'll be an interesting. That'll be an interesting game to watch. I might actually have that game on TV. That's surprised they have that even. I mean, Virginia Tech's looked good this year. I mean, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, they knocked off the mighty Tar Heels.
Yeah. Alabama's an 18-point favorite against A&M. I'm surprised that 2 losses, A&M's not in the top 25 anymore. Man, CBS got screwed this year with that being their night game.
Yeah, that sucks. Alabama will cover that one. They'll beat their butts.
They'll blow them out. So yeah, they'll cover. All right, so let's get over to the Big Ten. Actually, get some thoughts on some of our games.
Okay.
Only 5 games this week, so it looks like some teams are off. We'll throw Penn State, Iowa at the end here, and so 3 other games to talk about, since we'll do ours at the end of the show. Okay. Michigan State, Rutgers. Michigan State's a 5.5 point favorite. That's at noon on BTN.
In Piscataway.
It's in Piscataway. So what are we thinking here?
Pretenders. Rutgers with the big win outright.
Ooh. I was going to go Michigan State there, and I think I still am.
Not impressed with what you saw last week.
No, I think they'll. I wasn't impressed with Rutgers stopping the run either, and I think Michigan State was going to run all over them.
They could. I mean, that's really all they do. So,
and Rutgers has no offense. I mean, I'm sorry. Like,
you're not wrong.
I don't believe in them. Wisconsin at Illinois.
God, how bad is Wisconsin's
Bert gets
offense?
to play Wisconsin, so does Burt really have this hatred in him that you know that he wants to just bury Wisconsin? I mean, I know he left, but part of the reason why he left is they didn't give him the money to hire better assistant coaches. So does he just even though Wisconsin 11-point favorite, I don't know, they got blown out by Michigan, so I don't know how they're 11-point favorite. How anybody thinks that they're, I mean, I'm not saying Illinois is good, but does people really think that Wisconsin's 11 points better? Has Wisconsin shown anything this year offensively that they can go out and beat any team in the Big Ten by more than 11 points or more? Like, that's what I don't see that at all.
They beat
I think Illinois.
Michigan.
I think Illinois is going to beat them outright.
I'll give Wisconsin the win, but Illinois will beat the spread, though. It'll be within 11 points. So, well, we both have Illinois some way or another as the winner of this game.
What could be a possible interesting trap game, in my opinion, because they're playing better. At the 7:30 at night, we got Michigan, who's a 3-point favorite at Nebraska. I think this could be a trap game. I think
I don't know. I don't know what to make of this.
I like Nebraska. Nebraska's been playing the last few weeks, and they are playing very good defensively.
They're playing very good defensive.
And Michigan has not shown anything offensively that really says to me, wow. Even against last week against Wisconsin, like I have just not had a wow moment with Michigan offensively. I'm still liking Michigan's defense. Like, I think they're better. I like their new defensive coordinator, and I think they're a much better defense than they've been in years past. But I don't know now. Like,
is this going to have to be the game where you switch to JJ McCarthy?
Is he only going to switch to him for one play and then bring, like, I thought that was last week. Like,
no, I meant, like, is this where JJ McCarthy takes the starting job?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But knowing with Harbaugh, it's not going to be till the following week. I think Nebraska's going to beat him, and then he'll do it. Like,
I'm having a really hard time with this game. I just like Nebraska. Nebraska did so well last week, but then if you go back to the beginning of the season, Northwestern, they suck stopping the run. I mean, Michigan State ran all over them, and Michigan State, Nebraska should have beat Michigan State, though. They kind of shot themselves in the foot on that one. They were in the game with Oklahoma. I mean, they should have beat Illinois. So, yeah, you know what? It's at Nebraska.
I just don't see where.
I'm with you.
I don't see how Michigan's going to be able to move the ball on Nebraska's defense. Now, granted,
JJ McCarthy comes in.
I think Nebraska's going to have a hard time moving the ball against Michigan's defense, too. Like, I'm not saying that they won't. I just think being at home, night game, those fans are going to be into it big time. And McNamara, that's what he is. He's an And I think, and he's going to struggle against that crowd when the pressure really gets on. And I think the pressure is going to get on. And I think Nebraska's going to beat them. So I'm going with Nebraska in this game.
You talked me into it. Go Big Red. Nebraska wins outright.
All right. The game outside of our game, obviously, that we're looking forward to. I mean, this is the big one. Penn State at Iowa. Iowa's a 1.5-point favorite. Both are undefeated. What do you think? Yeah. Zach Kinnick. I mean, I'm trying to think. I know who I want to win. I want Penn State to win because I think we could get Iowa out of the season with one loss, and a one-loss Iowa at the end of the year is fine in the Big Ten championship game. I want the street cred in a couple weeks against an undefeated Penn State team because that will be the big game because it's a regular season game. Everybody, an undefeated Iowa at the end of the year would be great, but playing an undefeated Penn State at home in a couple weeks where, that game will get played up by everybody, especially if Ohio State still only has one loss too. That will be, and, Ohio State's been inching right back up into the polls now. So that would be like a game that will put us back into the playoffs. And then we would actually probably be in a driver's seat at that point that we just need to win out, especially if we get a loss or two in there. But I could see us beating Penn State, us being a number 4 seed at that point. Mm-hmm. So like after beating them,
I'll tell you what you want. You want this to be like the greatest heavyweight fight that has ever.
I agree.
You want this to be the type of game where you come out and both teams get somehow credited with a win.
And I think both their styles actually benefit that.
They're tailor made for close games against each other.
And that's good for Ohio State, that this game really is tailor made for a close game, a slugfest. They're number 3 versus number 4. It's going to get a lot of credit at it. And if Penn State goes into Kinnick and beats them 17-13 or whatever, that's a big win for Penn State, and it will be a respected win for Penn State. And and same thing, and the other way around too, because I think it's a slugfest either way. To where even if Penn State loses this game, I don't think they go drop a bunch of spots. Heck, if they lose a close game, they might even still stay above Ohio State at 7. So that still doesn't hurt us. No, I think these two styles of teams, this definitely equates that. They're so similar in so many ways that it should be a very lower scoring slugfest type of game. And I think that helps. It helps their credibility on both of their fronts. And, it keeps them in ranking possibilities that it ends up helping Ohio State at the end of the day, especially since Ohio State has a team that could hopefully at a point, you have the athletes that actually could blow both these teams out.
Sure.
Getting there is going to be the thing, but I truly believe that you have a team that if you can get them down, that you could really put them lights out real quick, so because Ohio State has kind of an opposite feel to their teams where they're both really solid. Ohio State could really exploit them, but so I think Penn State wins this game. It's going to be very, very close. I think I like Penn State. I know Iowa's defense is really good, but I think Penn State's defense is pretty good. And I just respect Penn State's offense a little bit more right now. And so I just think they'll get a couple more points at the end of the day.
My heart's saying I want Penn State to win a close game. My brain is saying, though, that Iowa's going to win a close game at home.
I could see it. Iowa's very good. They've impressed me really much on defense, and I've never been the, what's his face, the quarterback. Can't think of it right now, but
Sean Clifford.
I haven't been a big Clifford fan. I think he's a very poor man's McSorley.
I don't even know if you can. They're not even in the same league.
Yeah. All right. So that's how we feel with the Big Ten. That's all the Big Ten games outside of ours. Who's your MVP, your breakout guy? Who's the guy that you think offensively is just you're at the end of the game is like, wow, man, he just kicked ass there.
So I said last week it was going to be Olave. I felt pretty good about that. I'm saying
he had a good game.
He did. And I'm going to say this week that I'm going to go back to old trusty, old faithful from last year. Garrett Wilson's the man this time around. Give me Garrett Wilson's going to have 3 touchdown catches in this game.
Last week I said Henderson. He's kind of my toss-up guy again this week.
That's your workhorse.
I'm going to say he's my workhorse, but I'm going to say CJ Stroud. And the reason why I'm going with Stroud is I think he started putting it together last week, and I think he is going to have a monster game. I think he's going to be easily plus 250, 300 in there, passing the ball. I think he's going to run a little bit. He showed last week that he's got a little comfortable doing that. So I think he's going to progress a little bit on that. I'm not saying that the dude's going to take off with it all the time. He's not JT Barrett, but he's going to get to the point where he really does feel comfortable. Hey, if I got to put my head down and pick up 3 yards, I'm going to put my head down and pick up 3 yards and get a first down. I think that was just eye-opening for him that, okay, I can do this. And once you tell yourself that you can do it and you have the talent, then you do it, because it's like, it's like that's the mental hurdle I think you just got to get over when you're a young kid, and you know you're coming in Justin Fields' shadow, and I think that's a lot of things that nobody has ever said that really, that this kid is coming in a very big shadow, and he just had to learn how to do it himself. And his self's going to be different than the way Justin Fields did it. Doesn't mean it's going to be worse. Justin Fields is just Justin Fields, and make your own team, man. Like, you do it the way you want to do it and how it fits you best. And I think he saw last week because he did it. So now he will be confident in himself to go out and do it again.
Well,
so
if he keeps getting better, he's getting taken off the table that he can't be an MVP candidate anymore, just like Justin was last year.
Yeah. All right. Your defensive player.
So I kind of have a toss up here. It's kind of between two guys. Obviously, Tagovailoa, he's what makes their offense go. With their top receiver being hurt, though, Raheem Jarrett, I think he goes by Rocket, just like Rocket Ronnie Hickman. He's their top guy to try to get the ball to. So I'm kind of torn between Denzel Burke or Cam Martinez on this one, because I don't think they're going to be able to burn Denzel Burke down the field. So I think they're going to try to short stuff, slants, whatever, maybe get Jarrett in different spots on the field. That's where Martinez is going to be lurking. So give me Cam Martinez as the defensive player of the game. Only one pick, but he will take it back to the house. 4 games in a row. Four games in a row. Pick 6.
I actually agree with you in that one. I think, I don't know if it'll be Martinez, but it'll be somebody in the secondary. We're going to get a couple picks in this game. I think I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with Tyleek. Yeah, it's ready to become he's ready to become my guy. And I like him.
He's unblockable, man. He's almost at least against pass rush, he's more dominating, I think, than Tommy Togiai was.
I think he gets 2 more sacks in this game. I think he is very unblockable, and he's going to be so disruptive. He's going to have a lot of hurries. He's going to knock him over a couple times. He's going to get, he's going to jump in front of a couple passes, just throw some stuff off, and you're going to get
Tyleek Williams pick 6. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe. No, but he's going to cause another pick like he did last week. The
guy's everywhere. He almost gets 2 sacks every game.
Yeah. So that's who I'm going with. Even though I'm really, there's things about Ronnie Hickman and Cody Simon that I'm super digging right now too. That, guys are just all over the field, and it sounds like they want to try to get Craig Young into the mix a little bit more, try to find some different spots, because I'm really liking this lineup that they're settling in on. And it's they're fine. We saw last week with Denzel Burke. I've been okay with, Seven's been looking good the last couple of weeks. Cam Brown has looked good when he's been in there, and Denzel Burke's looked good. So the outside corner spot I'm fine with. I've always been a little bit nervous about the middle, but what they're doing right now with Ransom and Cam Martinez and Ronnie Hickman and Cody Simon and Craig Young and Taraja Mitchell and even Eichenberg when he's getting there is looking good, and Steele's looking good when he's getting in there. It's they've finally settled on a rotation for the middle between those guys that, man, they're just really looking good in that type of defense that they're running. And I'm liking it. That's they're not playing with fear anymore. And the first couple of games they were playing with fear, and and they were confused, and now they're just not confused anymore. So
and they're playing fast and they're making plays.
Yeah, and that's all that matters. All right, your score for Maryland.
What's the line on this one?
We are a 21-point favorite.
All right. So, all right, you ready for this? I'm saying you're going to get a couple turnovers early. Of course, I said there's going to be a pick 6. I'm not sure if that'll be early or not, but you're going to get a couple turnovers in the first quarter. Ohio State 66, Maryland 17.
We agree on the 17. I had them at 17 too. I'm going with 52-17. I'm not to the 60s yet, like you are, but they are really beating down that door. And I think they're going to handle them. I think we're going to get three interceptions in this game, maybe a fumble or two. Like I really do feel that way. I do think one of those interceptions are going to go back. I think I'm confident in that.
And Emeka Ibuka's taking one to the house on a kickoff.
Maybe I'd be okay with that. I would like to. We've talked about this. I think we'll talk about this starting next week because we'll do an after. I don't know if we'll do 2 shows next week or if we'll just combine our after Maryland show and maybe some general topics into one show because bye week's next week. But we'll figure that out as we go. But I think we want to talk a little bit about next week is it Emeka's turn or somebody else's turn maybe to start taking the punts? Can he do that? And maybe some other stuff. Are we how we feel about them at the bye week, I think is going to be a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, coming into a very big stretch down the field. I mean, they got some. I mean, we just talked about Nebraska. It's not just Indiana, Penn State. I mean, Indiana seems like it's going to be a little easier than maybe we thought before. After Oregon, after Oregon, I was a little nervous about that game because I didn't have a lot of confidence about the team. I have more confidence about the team now. I think Indiana's a lot easier than we thought, but Penn State's tough. Nebraska's looking good. Michigan State's looking really good. Purdue's got some splash about it. Michigan's looking better. So, we're not going to have no easy down the stretch as, maybe once we thought we might, but that's also not a bad thing. And it's going to keep them extremely, extremely focused coming down this stretch. Like, there's not one game that they can take off. And when you think about all the noise Indiana made last year and the big, Ryan Day is going to be able to really drum up some anger towards Purdue, I think. We should be able to keep our focus on every game coming down this stretch. So
you got to. I mean, you got to beat every team by as much as possible.
Yeah, agree. So I think we both feel it's going to be a pretty easy win for Ohio State. So let's hopefully they prove us right like they did last week. So.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for stopping in tonight to the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
I'm Mike.
OH.
IO.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added. And please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
IO.